In the spirit of October and more importantly Halloween, I thought it would be fun if, in the same way that Dr. Frankenstein built his monster by putting together many different pieces, what if we built a Frankenstein Riot MMO using different information we can gather from across the internet, utilizing only the most respectable forehead, big brain technology, speculation, and educated guessing by deriving information from publicly disclosed info, the team's previous projects and specialties, as well as my own personal thoughts. I think it can sculpt what we might be able to expect from the game. Anything from combat to crafting, progression, storyline, and even PvE raids and endgame progression. Now, as always, remember this is highly speculative and more just a fun project to open up some discussion on the likely future of this exciting MMO title. Also, remember, if you enjoy this video or this type of content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Join us in the discussion on various different communities. Hop by the stream sometime, and with all of that out of the way, let's get right into the nitty-gritty in the spooky world of the Riot MMO. One of the largest areas of contention for the Riot MMO is what the combat may look like. I'm going to lump into this the camera perspective as well. I want to keep this section of the video a little bit short, but at this point we can assume that the game will be in fact action combat based, just on the fact that they have filled multiple action combat roles on their team. As far as the camera perspective goes, we have two options right now given their job requirements and postings. Many of their confirmed hires have experience working on third-person titles. One or two of them also has experience working on the Diablo series, which is a top-down isometric game. Given their wording, and this is purely speculation, I would say that we have about a 80% chance of the game being a third-person MMO and probably about a 20% chance of the game being isometric top-down experience. I know this isn't the news a lot of you want to hear, but stay with me as we build out this Frankenstein monster of a game, as it really gets exciting and some of the future possibilities of this title are really cool. Next up, we have travel, and while mostly speculative, has also kind of been solved in the world of Runeterra. Sure, we will have mounts, many of which I have shown off in my creature video, and we can also expect some level of flight paths or possibly even flying mounts too. But to me, one of the more exciting types of travel that we will see is the utilization of hex gates. These massive portals, initially utilized for trade and political gatherings, will most probably be one of our forms of long-distance travel within the world of Runeterra. As far as I know, they don't even have any limits as far as distance that they can close, and new hex gates can pop up around the world as new areas are introduced through expansions and DLC content. These hex gates are based in Piltover, which we can also assume will be the future main hub of the game, as most travel, trade, and socialization is centralized around Piltover, as well as it just simply being in the center of the map, geographically speaking. So you want quests and an immersive experience within the world? Let me ask you, have you ever played The Witcher 3? Or maybe gone back and checked out Cyberpunk recently, since more of its recent updates have kind of fixed the game a little bit? Well, I've got some great news for you. Mateus, the lead quest designer of The Witcher and Cyberpunk, has signed on to do what he does best in the Riot Games MMO. This is great news because one of the things these games really does best is present the narrative in a manner that leaves the world still feeling open and fun, and not a linear and compact experience like some of the more other recent MMO titles. I personally cannot wait to work my way through his quest lines, and I think it's going to be one of the most exciting, best parts of this game, is just questing in general. Next up, let's talk about crafting. Crafting is something that up until this point, we really have little to no information about. Ghostcrawler has stated that he's a big fan of crafting economies. That said, he did say he doesn't think endgame gear should just switch to the big dragon, drops a bunch of ingots and scrapped, and then go to town and craft. Doesn't really deliver on the expectation of crafting economy within the game. And it's a little bit oversimplified, and something I see some of the other MMO titles that are coming out in the future kind of focusing on, which in my opinion is not great. And really, aside from this small quote, the only thing we really can confirm is that there will in fact be crafting within the game. And this job posting here kind of states that. Now, speaking of this metagame systems position that we can assume has been filled, yet we don't know by who given that the posting is no longer up, we can pull some information on the future of the game's progression and what Riot Games may have in mind. The first thing that stood out to me was under the job responsibilities, where they say create intricate rewards that enhance the overall player experience and give players satisfying long-term progression and goals. To me, this shows how important it is to the team to create rewards that are long-term goals that players can work on aside from just the standard raid or dungeon to get better gear and then log out. They go on to say, design creative, strategic, and immersive non-combat activities that players can engage in for hundreds of hours, reiterating on the idea that the game will have hundreds of hours worth of content to consume that is non-combat centric. Now, of course, we have already confirmed fishing will be in the game, but this just shows the importance and breadth of the game will have on side progression. 2 thumbs up from me. As we continue down this job posting, one of the biggest things I have felt missing in the MMO genre recently, and the basis for one of my recent videos, was the lack of social systems in the genre as a whole. Once again, we fall back on this metagame job position, where they go on to ask for the ability to design systems and features that foster deeper social bonds between players and healthy player economies. What this means is to create a healthy and respectful player bond within the game systems. Now, I know for any of you who have played League, you know that this is definitely an area that Riot Games can improve on. But more importantly than ever, we need to remember that this is a whole new team for the most part, coming from many different games within the industry. Their effort and emphasis toward building social systems with the game is refreshing to see and makes me hopeful for the future of the title, to say the least. So lastly, as we finish off this Frankenstein monster, we want to look at some other aspects that are kind of more traditional in the MMO genre. Dungeons and raids are an important aspect of any MMO and their respective endgames. Sure, we all love fishing and crafting, but I think we need this core content to better show and utilize our characters' combat potential. And oh my god, when Ghostcrawler says their team is stacked, their dungeon and raid encounter team is no exception. Pulling industry vets from some of the largest and most successful titles, we really have a lot to look forward to. If we were to show off some of the encounters based on their previous work, we can expect scalable and highly competitive raids and dungeons, fun and intricate telegraphed mechanics. Continuing on from this though, is the team's goals to build the future combat of the MMO genre and not recycling other games, pushing the fanbase into a nostalgic copium driven corner. So we can all be excited to know that the gameplay in the PvE at least will be a ton of fun, as well as being refreshing and completely new to the genre. Now, as we look at these pillars of this beautiful MMO, or I guess I should say limbs on this Frankenstein monster, we can really see the game start to take shape and mold into this really awesome experience that I personally am looking forward to so much. If you find yourself as excited as I am for this future MMO title, make sure you hit subscribe at the top of the page and follow me on all other forms of social media. We have constant discussions over on our Discord about the game, as well as other MMO titles. And right now on Twitch, we're doing a 40 MMO stream marathon. I think we're about halfway through that, and we're just having a blast seeing all these different games and learning from their mistakes and successes and how that may affect the future of the MMO. So as always, my name is Spun. Thank you for coming out, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.